There are a lot of potential reasons for the downfall of the Cowboys. Jimmy Johnson getting fired, Michael Irvin and Troy Aikman's early retirements, Jessica Simpson. Did Dez catch it or did he not in that whole fiasco? But truthfully, what stands out as a breaking point of the Cowboys franchise is the playoff game loss against Aaron Rodgers at Jerry World in 2016. The Cowboys were the team to beat, being the number 1 seed by multiple games in the NFC. Having rookie Dak and Zeke go band for band each and every game, wondering if one of them could take home the MVP award. The Cowboys had found their diamond in the rough with drafting Dak in the 4th round, and it seemed like with 30 seconds left in the game, if they could just hang on, they would have a chance in OT to head to the NFC Championship, which would be the first time they had done so since 1996. The pressure was immense. The tension was palpable. But before they could even think about going to the NFC Championship, the start of the 2016 season was extremely murky. The 2016 NFL Draft would be one of the most consequential in Cowboys history. With the 4th overall pick, Dallas made a statement that sent shockwaves through the NFL. While other teams were prioritizing pass rushers and quarterbacks, the Cowboys selected Ohio State's own Ezekiel Elliott. The move was immediately controversial. Running backs weren't supposed to be in the top 5 anymore.
Did the Cowboys screw this up?
Well, chances are they did.
But for a team that had only 8 rushing touchdowns total in the previous season on their way to a 4-12 record, they could use the punch Zeke was going to bring. But the real steal came much later in the draft. With the 135th pick in the 4th round, Dallas selected Mississippi State's quarterback, Dak Prescott. The Cowboys had desperately wanted Paxton Lynch in the 1st round and tried to aggressively trade back up, but the Broncos were like, nah, okay. Prescott became their consolation prize, a developmental quarterback who could learn behind Tony Romo. Despite the off-the-field concern, Dallas felt comfortable taking him, which was a great thing too, because on August 25th, 2016, during what should have been a routine preseason game against the Seahawks, Tony Romo broke his back, and now all of a sudden they had to throw their rookie completely into the fire. But he absolutely conquered the preseason, showing out against the Rams, Miami, and the Seahawks. The preseason performances were impressive enough that whispers began circulating. Maybe this actually wasn't a disaster. Maybe, just maybe, the Cowboys had found something special in their 4th round quarterback. So they decided to go with Dak to start the season. We all wanted to see if the preseason was a fluke or if he was legit. And there was no better test than a division rival in the Giants. The 2016 season opener against the Giants at AT&T Stadium was supposed to be a statement game. Instead, it became a harsh reality check. Despite Dak's composed performance, completing 25 of 45 passes for 227 yards with no turnovers, the Cowboys fell 20-19 in a heartbreaking loss. Dallas looked like they were headed for another lost year, but honestly, nobody could have predicted what would happen next. The Cowboys rattled off victory after victory, with Prescott and Elliott forming an unstoppable rookie tandem. The breakthrough came in Week 2 at Washington. Dak completed 22 of 30 passes for 292 yards in a 27-23 victory. Week after week, the wins kept coming. Chicago fell 31-17. They dismantled San Francisco 24-17. They handled Cincinnati 28-14. Each game just brought more and more confidence, more and more belief that this wasn't a fluke. And by the time they reached Green Bay in Week 6, the Cowboys were 4-1 and riding high on an unprecedented run. But they're about to play Aaron Rodgers at the peak of his powers, so nobody really knew how they would handle it. Nobody except for the Cowboys, because they came ready to play. Dak threw for 247 yards and 3 touchdowns with just 1 interception. The 30-16 victory wasn't just a win, it was a statement. And suddenly, the rest of the NFL was starting to take notice. This wasn't just a feel-good story anymore. Dallas was a legit contender. Perhaps no single play better encapsulated the magic of the 2016 season more than the Steelers game. The Steelers weren't a great team by any means, only being 4-4, but they still had the killer bees and still fighting for playoff contention. With a go-ahead touchdown off a fake spike, the Steelers were now up 30-29 with about 40 seconds left. This was by far the biggest test the young troops had faced all season. Dak was able to drive them all the way down the field, getting them into field goal range, when Zeke took the rock up the gut for a 32-yard game-winning touchdown. The vibes were immaculate. The 35-30 victory showcased everything that made this Cowboys team special. By December, the Cowboys were rolling. They had already locked up the NFC's top seed and home field advantage throughout the playoffs a few weeks earlier. Dak finished with a 67% completion percentage, over 3,600 yards and 23 touchdowns, and just 4 interceptions. Zeke was even more dominant, leading the NFL with 1,631 rushing yards, over 300 more than the second-place finisher. When the NFL handed out its annual awards, the Cowboys rookie class was front and center. Dak won Rookie of the Year, just becoming the third quarterback in NFL history to win 13 games as a starter. Zeke finished second in the Rookie of the Year voting, a testament to his historic season. As the playoffs approached, optimism in Dallas reached a level we hadn't seen since the 90s. All that stood between Dallas and a trip to Atlanta was a divisional round matchup against a familiar foe. Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, the same team they had dominated at Lambeau Field just 3 months earlier. What could possibly go wrong? AT&T Stadium was electric. The number 1 seed Dallas Cowboys, riding their 13-3 season, were heavy favorites against the Packers. This was supposed to be the coronation for Dak and Zeke, officially announcing themselves as the new kings of the NFC. Instead, it became one of the most heartbreaking losses in franchise history. But Dallas struck first, however. Dan Bailey connected on a 50-yard field goal, giving the Cowboys a 3-0 lead, but the Packers would respond right away. Aaron Rodgers found Richard Rodgers for a 34-yard touchdown pass, and just like that, Green Bay led 7-3. The second quarter belonged to the Packers. Ty Montgomery punched it in for a 3-yard rushing touchdown, and then they got the ball back, and then Ty Montgomery added another 1-yard rushing touchdown. And now the Packers had a 21-3 lead. But this Cowboys team had showed resilience all season, and they weren't going quietly. Dak found Dez for a 40-yard spectacular touchdown pass, Bryant's first score of the game. Then Dan Bailey added a 33-yard field goal before time expired at the end of the third. So now it's 21-13. Coming right out of half, the Packers walked down the Cowboys with the Jared Cook touchdown, and the score stays 28-13 until 11:43 left in the fourth. That was when Dak found Jason Witten for a 6-yard touchdown pass. With 4:08 left, Prescott and Bryant connected again, this time for a 7-yard touchdown. But the real drama came on the 2-point conversion. Dak kept it himself, diving across the goal line to tie the game 28-28. The stadium erupted. The comeback was complete. Overtime seemed inevitable. But Aaron Rodgers had other plans. With 1:33 remaining, Mason Crosby connected on a 56-yard field goal to give Green Bay a 31-28 lead. Dallas responded immediately. Dan Bailey kicked a 52-yarder with just 35 seconds remaining, and now the game was tied 31-31. And now, for sure, it seemed like overtime was certain. What happened next will haunt Cowboys fans forever. After taking a sack, pushing it to 3rd and 20 with 11 seconds left, he rolled out to his left, buying time. He uncorked it with the clock ticking, finding Jared Cook right down the sideline, hitting him right in the breadbasket. Somehow, Jared Cook keeps his tiptoes in bounds, and that was essentially it. Mason Crosby lined up for a 51-yarder. It seemed like he pulled it left at first, but somehow it got back into the center, and that was it. Green Bay 34, Dallas 31. Dak had played great, especially in the second half, finishing with 302 yards and 3 touchdowns. Zeke had 125 yards on 22 carries himself, but Aaron Rodgers had done what Aaron Rodgers does. He found a way to break their hearts one last time. The Jared Cook catch didn't just end the season, it shattered the Cowboys' organizational DNA. The 2016 Cowboys were special because they were cheap, healthy, and fearless, but that version of the Cowboys died with Mason Crosby's field goal. Since then, it's been a parade of injuries at the worst possible times. Dak has missed significant time with ankle injuries, shoulder problems, thumb fractures, hamstring, or just god-awful plays in the playoffs. But what really makes it worse is how well the Eagles have done in that time. The 2017 Eagles won with Nick Foles at quarterback after Carson Wentz got hurt. Then won in 2024 with Jalen Hurts after trading away Carson Wentz. And then add on top of that, the contract drama with Dak, with CeeDee Lamb, and now with Micah Parsons. Cowboys aren't the same because they refuse to accept that they can never be the same. And as an Eagles fan, I thank you very, very much, Jerry Jones.